the headline on it is Imagining a World Without Pensions. It's written by John Crocker, who is president and CEO of the Healthcare of Ontario Pension Plan, which is the one that exists for healthcare workers, nurses and hospital people and so forth. And he talks about how it's been a bad trend for responsibility for retirement savings to be offloaded to employees. And that is the trend that I guess has been twofold in nature. Most prevalent has been the fact that defined benefit pension plans have been disappearing from the private sector, meaning the ones that define how much you get every month as a percentage of your income or a certain amount, replaced by defined contribution plans where they say you have to give $1,000 a year or $500 a month or whatever, and that you get out whatever you get out when it's all said and done based on what the return is, just like having an RSP. It's no different. And if the plan is done well, then you get more. And if it's done really poorly, you get, you could theoretically, I guess, get nothing. He makes the case, this is John Crocker, that this is a very bad development because it will cause a lot of people to have to rely on the Canada pension arrangements of various kinds, and he adds them up. Old age security benefits. Well, first of all, you get the CPP itself, which is a single Canadian gets $6,000 a year. Then you'd get the old age security benefits, another $6,000 a year, and then you might qualify for the guaranteed income supplement. But the bottom line is you're going to get, say, as I've always said, $11,000 or $12,000. And he's making the case, well, who's going to live on $11,000 or $12,000 when the poverty line for individuals living in large cities is $18,000. And I that's exactly the argument I've always been making. Try living on $11,000 or $12,000 in any city. Try living on $11,000 or $12,000 anywhere, no matter how old you are. But you see, he's making this argument in here that I think is flawed because it sort of says, well, Canadians, he says here, we've already seen Canadians aren't saving for retirement on their own given the $600 billion in unused RRSP room at the end of 2009, according to Statistics Canada. Well, okay, fair enough. He's right. That's a fact. But if we want people to save, then we only have two choices. They have to change their habits and start doing it themselves, or we have to dramatically increase taxes to do it for them. Because if you're going to do it for them, fine. There'd be a lot of people who'd say that's very paternalistic and the government's sort of interfering where they shouldn't, and people should be left to make their own decisions and have some responsibility for something on their own that the government doesn't do. But let's say even put all that aside and say, no, we can't have these people living in poverty, these older people, of which there are going to be millions more in coming years, so the government should do it. Well, okay, fine. Where is the money going to come from? And if you say to people, we're going to increase CPP premiums, especially say for guys like these young guys between the glass here, so they're going to have dramatically increased Canada pension premiums or just higher taxes to pay my pension because I'm going to retire in 15 years and I've done nothing to provide for myself. They're very nice fellows, Drew and Donnie, and they're typical of lots of people their age. They really are nice people, and they're kind and they're compassionate. I would think it is not beyond reason, though, for them to say, hey, wait a minute. You worked your whole life. You had your choice as to sort of what you spent your money on. You chose to take lower taxes from time to time and, in fact, demand them of your government. You knew what the arrangements were for yourself in terms of whether you had a pension plan at work, and you knew whether you had an RSP, and you knew what the government provided, which is $12,000 a year. So am I now, as two young guys, to spend the rest of my life paying as long as you live, which I hope is a long time, because they would think that I should live for a long time, I hope. I think they like me enough. And I think they'd be well in their rights to say, no, that is not our job. You look after yourself to some extent. If looking after yourself means you're fortunate enough as part of your job and your negotiation to have a pension plan, fine. If not, then I guess you kind of know you have to do it yourself. And even if it means you're putting $50 a month away for every year that you work when you know you're in a job that doesn't have a pension plan, that $50 a month with the power of compounding can lead to quite a lot of money, a lot more than the $60,000 average that people have in their RSP, which was last year about 6 months. So I just challenge a bit of the fundamental assumption Mr. Crocker makes here, that somehow we can just turn to the government again and say, you do it. Because people don't want to pay for that. This is what's got people mad, and it's why, by the way, they're going broke over in Greece, because they've said, oh, don't worry, the government will look after this. And then you get to the question later on of who pays. And all of a sudden, there aren't enough people to pay. You're saying to all the young people, you pay for all the irresponsibility of your elders, and the whole thing just comes apart because they don't want to charge the true value, so they just put it into government debt, and then the country